I'm Larry Krasner. I'm running for district attorney, and you are watching.
So when we talk about the death penalty here in Pennsylvania, and I don't know the exact statistic on that, as far as how many people Pennsylvania has killed in the last 10 years.
The answer is none, by the way.
Okay. So do you believe in the death penalty?
No. I think the death penalty is immoral. I also think it's absolutely terrible policy. Here are the facts in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is the last northeastern city that has the death penalty. You can't get it in Boston, you can't get it in New York City, you can't get it if you go north, okay? There are cities to the south where you can't get the death penalty, including Wilmington, Delaware, and so on. So why is Philadelphia this unusual city? Well, I mean, one of the reasons is everybody else figured it out. In New Jersey, all the district attorneys got together and got rid of the death penalty because they realized it didn't make anybody safer, and it was a tremendous waste of resources when they could have used those resources to solve serious crimes, and they could have also used it in other ways, right? In Pennsylvania, we have not executed someone against his will since 1962, when this old man was 1 year old, okay? Wow. We executed 3 people in the 90s because they wanted to die. They basically told their lawyers not to do any more appeals. They were just miserable and they wanted to die. So there we killed off 3 more because we helped them to die. During that same period of time, we have discovered that 6 people who were found guilty and sentenced to death and were on death row were completely innocent. We have exonerated them and removed them from death row. And that's just among the ones where there was DNA that was captured at the time of the incident and could be tested later when science got better, right? Mm-hmm. You and I both know that means that there's more than 6 innocent people who've been on death row.
Absolutely.
If we had gone and killed all those people, we would have been killing the innocent. That's the reality, all right? So we have a death sentence, but we don't actually carry it out. We haven't carried it out against someone's will since 1962. And it has cost us $1 billion since the 1970s.
To house an inmate on death row.
It costs $10,000 more per inmate, and we have something like 180 people on death row. It costs $10,000 more per inmate per year. That's a small part of it. But when you try these cases, they take 2 or 3 times as long in a courtroom, which is expensive. And then you got to put 2 lawyers on them instead of 1. And then you got to pay for all of these experts. And the appeals go on for 20 years, paid for by taxpayers. So it's $1 billion. You know, and if you start breaking that down into public school teachers, well, you can get a young public school teacher for something like $40,000, right? At $1 billion, we could have had 500 public school teachers across Pennsylvania every year for 50 years. Every year since the 1970s, we could have done that. But instead, we have this phony promise of an execution that's never carried out. It's just wrong. I mean, the reality is the death penalty does not reduce crime at all. What does reduce crime is having 500 public school teachers across the state. The statistics are very clear that when education is strong, crime is weak. But that's not what we do. We come up with this death penalty, which really doesn't do anything more than get a bunch of people elected DA because they beat their chest and talk about how I'm going to execute them and all that nonsense. I mean, that's the reality. Right. The reality is it's a vehicle that helps people get elected by talking tough. But it doesn't accomplish anything. It makes our schools worse and it makes our crime worse.
I'm a supporter of public schools. I believe in public schools. I come from public school. My children attend public school. And, I believe, of course, that the school district needs to be revamped. I believe that, the SRC needs to go. I believe in all those things. But the school to prison pipeline, can we stop that?
I think we can. There's a lot of adjustments in the criminal justice system that have to be made. We've talked about some of them. Mm-hmm. Just getting rid of the death penalty, right. It opens up so many more courtrooms to deal with more serious cases. It reduces costs tremendously. It frees up funds that can go to public schools. Ending mass incarceration, the same thing. I mean, we spent $300 million on State Road a year in Philadelphia just to keep too many people in jail. Cut that by a third, you might save $100 million. That's a lot of dollars.
Yes, definitely is.
You know, and those dollars can go into schools, and they can go to summer programs, they can go to job programs. So you can actually break that school to prison pipeline. I mean, there's a lot more to it. You know, we charge more cases than we should. More of these cases should be rejected. We don't divert as many cases as we should into ways to end the case and hold people accountable without having them convicted. There's many levels to it, but the bottom line is, if you come at it and you stop trying to just get elected by talking tough, and you stop trying to break people when they don't deserve to be broken. Some of them do, but when you stop trying to break the ones who don't deserve to be broken, you can break the school to prison pipeline.
Philadelphia has right now has the lowest population on state road that they've had in years. Excuse me, but there's still a mass incarceration problem. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on mass incarceration?
So here are the facts. The United States has 5 times as many people in jail as it did in the 1970s. It is the most incarcerated nation in the world. More than China, more than Rwanda, more than Russia, more than these places that we consider to be dictatorships. The land of the free has more people in jail than any of them. There are more black and brown people in prison, in jail, on probation, or on parole than were in slavery at the beginning of the Civil War. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. Pennsylvania's even worse, 7 times as many, and Philadelphia is arguably even worse. It is either the or one of the most incarcerated of the 10 biggest cities in the United States, which is nuts if you realize how many people of color are voters and that the city is 80% Democratic. It's pretty liberal. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, right? So yes, we have a huge mass incarceration problem, and the reality is that it is getting better right now. There is an ex-public defender who's a judge who's been leading the charge to lower the numbers in jail. It's down about 12%. However, there's a goal to get it down by 1/3. Even that goal is modest, because if you're going to go back to 1970s level of incarceration, you would have to reduce it 84%. Okay? So yes, we do have a terrible mass incarceration problem. It is the reason our schools are falling apart. It's the reason we don't have money for proper drug rehabilitation treatment for addicts. It's the reason we don't have money to put into job programs that will get people good jobs, which cuts crime. We've just been putting the money in all the wrong places.
But you know, when Mayor Kinney was still a council person, he wrote the bill to decriminalize marijuana. Do you think that marijuana should be legalized here in Pennsylvania?
Yes. Legalized for medical purposes, legalized for recreational purposes. Here's the truth. Marijuana doesn't rot your liver. It doesn't rot your kidneys. I don't think juveniles should have it, just as they shouldn't have alcohol and they shouldn't have tobacco. Right. But it doesn't rot your liver or your kidneys. It doesn't kill you. Alcohol kills people all the time. And yet nobody has a problem with there being bars everywhere and there being beer everywhere. I mean, we all figured out during Prohibition that wasn't going to work. So it's a part of American life and we accept it. For many, many, many people, this is a better choice than painkillers that are based on opioids or opiates. Mm-hmm. In fact, when we look at places like Colorado where they do have marijuana available, they have a 25% reduction in people overdosing on opiates and opioids because they have an almost harmless painkiller available as compared to the opiates and opioids, which are killing people right and left. Okay? We also find, believe it or not, that in places like Colorado, juveniles are using less marijuana when it's legal. The only way I can make sense of that is it's not exciting anymore, right? Because mom and dad are doing it, so why would we want to do it? This is nothing more than a glass of wine in a piece of chocolate, or maybe in a cigarette. I mean, that's what it is. It's something that can be used responsibly. It is not physiologically addictive, which alcohol is, which tobacco is, and yet these are legal substances. So I favor it for those reasons, but there's another good reason on top of reducing overdoses from opiates and opioids, on top of giving people an alternative that is arguably healthier than alcohol, and that is that the states that are doing it now are just like the states that got in on gambling in the early days. I'm not a big fan of gambling either, but Vegas made a fortune in taxes, and they were able to put that into good things, into taking care of the elderly, into public schools, things of that sort.
Exactly.
Colorado is swimming in tax money for its educational system, swimming in it. So Pennsylvania is going to go there eventually. If they have any sense, they'll go there quick. And by going there quickly, they'll be able to get the funds to rebuild public schools, rebuild industry, to make it a tourist destination, just like Colorado is for people who want to smoke marijuana or whatever it may be. So yeah, I'm in favor of that. I think that we've had that one wrong since the 1960s. We knew scientifically at the time we shouldn't be going that route, but Richard Nixon had his political plans to make anti-war protesters and people of color look bad, and so that's what he did.
I've continuously said that you know, with if they legalize marijuana, especially with the school side to it, if they legalize marijuana, you look at like Colorado. When Colorado initially legalized the marijuana, they made so much money they had to start giving money back to the residents of Colorado.
That's right.
So you can make tons and tons of money off the legalization of marijuana, and you can have your schools funded in no time.
That's right.
So I would like to thank you for taking out the time to sit down and have this conversation and enlighten our viewers on your position as the, you know, as a candidate for district attorney. And we appreciate the time. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate yours. Thank you, Antoine. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.